Moving left, trailing 3. The snap to Winston. Good protect. Pass the right. Caught. Touchdown. Tampa Bay. O.J. Howard. Fire them cannons. What a play. Set back of the fullback is Vita Vea from the 1. And the ball play action bootleg roll pass to Vita Vea. Touchdown. Tampa Bay. The big fella scores his first career touchdown. Oh boy, what a catch. He was wide open. Bucs win. Bucs win. Bucs win. Fire them cannons.
Welcome back to another episode of the Swords Up podcast. Today we're going to be talking about our first win of the season, our 31-17 victory in Week 2 over the Carolina Panthers at home. This was obviously Tom Brady's first win as a Buccaneer. I'm just really happy to see us get our first win of the season in Week 2 here at our home opener. But I'm going to be talking about the stats, analyzing them from the game, and also the key players from this game. So getting right into it, we had some encouraging injury news come out today. Chris Godwin, who missed this game with a concussion, just cleared concussion protocol and is expected to play in Week 3 against the Broncos, so that's good to see. But for the second week in a row, the Buccaneers' opponents have come out of this game with a pretty significant injury as Christian McCaffrey suffered a high ankle sprain on his second touchdown of the day, and he is expected to be out for 4 to 6 weeks. So obviously a huge blow for this Panthers team on a day which was filled with so many injuries across the league. And thankfully the Buccaneers were one of the few teams that did not sustain any major injuries to any players. Donovan Smith was the only one that went down in the middle of the game for us, but he was able to return a couple plays later. But if you're a fantasy owner and you had Christian McCaffrey in your team, and because he'll be out 4 to 6 weeks, maybe Mike Davis would be a good replacement option. He is the Panthers' backup running back who should be thrust into the starting role with McCaffrey now out. But yeah, now actually looking at the game performance on the Buccaneers side, I was really impressed with what we did in this game. Offensively and defensively, there were some great moments. But first, I want to highlight our player of the game. In my opinion, it could have been Mike Evans. He had a very impressive game this week. Obviously coming off of a 1-catch, 2-yard performance for 1 touchdown last week, Mike Evans rebounded really nicely with 7 catches for 104 yards and 1 touchdown. But the player of the game I wanted to highlight today is Leonard Fournette, who after this game may have just solidified himself as our number 1 running back on the team. He had 12 carries for 103 yards, averaged 8.6 yards per carry, and had 2 touchdowns, including the game-sealing touchdown at the end of the game to kind of put this one away after the Panthers had closed it to a 1-touchdown game. So Leonard Fournette, in his second game as a Buccaneer, has already taken control of the run game, and he did get more carries actually in this game than Ronald Jones, who had 7 carries for 23 yards and 1 touchdown, and he played most of the first half, but Leonard Fournette really took over in the second half, and he looked really sharp, especially in the fourth quarter on his second touchdown run of the day. Speaking of bounce backs, including Mike Evans, who had a great game, Tom Brady also had a solid game. He didn't have great statistical numbers like you would expect him to have against the Panthers defense, who has looked a little shaky for the first couple of weeks. But Tom Brady still managed to have 23 completions on 35 attempts for 217 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. So not a bad home debut performance for Tom Brady, but you'll expect those numbers to get better as the season goes on. On the defensive side of the ball, they impressed again this week. Devin White with 15 tackles in this game. Antoine Winfield looked good. He had a sack and also 11 tackles. Jordan Whitehead and Carlton Davis both had interceptions of Teddy Bridgewater, and Ndamukong Suh had 2 sacks. William Golston with a sack, and Jason Pierre-Paul added to his total from last week with another sack this week. So the defense has looked pretty good these first couple of weeks against 2 divisional opponents, so that's an encouraging sign to see, considering the offense is still trying to find its rhythm. Now, on the Panthers side of things, obviously Christian McCaffrey did exit the game, but before he left the game in the fourth quarter, he had 18 carries for 59 yards and 2 touchdowns. Teddy Bridgewater didn't throw a touchdown pass in this game, had 2 interceptions, but he still had 33 completions on 42 attempts for 367 yards. Obviously, it wasn't his best day. Mike Davis, who came to replace Christian McCaffrey later in the fourth quarter, had only 1 carry for 1 yard, but had 8 receptions for 74 yards. So like I said, he might be an interesting fantasy asset. And Curtis Samuel might also fill in the void rushing. He had 4 carries for 26 yards, being used kind of as a wide receiver running back hybrid, similar to a Tavon Austin throughout his career. Defensively, Dante Jackson had an interception, and their leading tackler in this game was corner Rasul Douglas with 7. Now, just looking at the key points of why we won this game. Now, what I was most impressed with in this game was the development offensively. Tom Brady seemed to connect really well, especially with Mike Evans. Gronk, not so much. He probably needs more time to get back into football shape, but the rest of the offense really did click quite well with Tom Brady this week. And there was one play in particular that I was really impressed with, which was the touchdown grab that Mike Evans had. There was a similar play last week against the Saints where Tom Brady had a chance to find Mike Evans on a similar kind of route that Mike Evans ran for that touchdown, but Brady missed him, and him and Mike were on the same page. But this time they seemed to execute it perfectly. Tom Brady threw it right when Mike Evans was breaking out of his route, and it was an easy catch in the front left corner of the end zone for a touchdown, and I was pretty impressed with that play. We also had some excellent defensive play for the second game in a row. Obviously, the standout players in this game defensively were Ndamukong Suh, Jason Pierre-Paul, William Golston, Antoine Winfield, Devin White, obviously, and Jordan Whitehead and Carlton Davis came up big. So we had 4 turnovers total in this game, which obviously if you commit a lot of turnovers in a game, there's quite a big chance that you're not going to win the game. And when your defense does the job that it did against the Panthers like we did on Sunday, you're going to have a great chance to win, especially when you set up your offense with those defensive plays. So great job to the defense for forcing 4 turnovers again today. Now, obviously, getting the win is good and all, but there were still quite a few mistakes that we did have that, obviously we're going to need to fix as the season goes on, as it comes crunch time. There was better chemistry in this game, but we still had a few miscues, especially some crucial drops. I know Brady could have definitely improved his stats in this game if it weren't for LaShawn McCoy and Scotty Miller dropping touchdowns wide open in the end zone. So we need to definitely fix out the drops we had today. Also, Cyril Grayson was wide open running down the sideline, and Tom Brady hit a nice pass to him, and it bounced off his helmet. Obviously, he came into this game off the practice squad because Chris Godwin was unable to play, so he was the extra wide receiver added to the active roster for this game. And that was his chance, and, as the commentators did point out during the game, that after that, Tom Brady was probably thinking in his head, yeah, I'm probably not going to throw to him, at least for today. But knowing how great and talented our receiving core is, I don't think drops will be a huge issue moving forward, and we'll definitely get those problems fixed. But we still had a couple of bad turnovers in this game, carrying over from the Saints game. The first was Brady's interception. He was looking for Gronk over the middle, and the pass was a bit too high, and it was intercepted by Dante Jackson, and he took it back quite a distance, which set up the Panthers in pretty good field position. Obviously, those mistakes are ones that you want to avoid, and Tom Brady obviously made a terrible throw there, but that was pretty much his only really bad mistake of the day. The other really bad mistake offensively that we might pin on Tom Brady, but more of on Ronald Jones, was the fumble that we had in the second half when Tom Brady was handing it off to Ronald Jones, and Ronald Jones just seemed to drop the ball on the handoff, and the Panthers ended up recovering that. So those were the 2 turnovers the Panthers had, and those were pretty costly mistakes by us. But thankfully, our defense was able to come up with 2 more turnovers than the Panthers did to swing the game in our favor when our offense was struggling. But yeah, that's mainly it for this game. Let me know what you think about this game in the comments below. It was a crazy week in the NFL this week. A lot of injuries. Thankfully, we were able to avoid any major injuries to our team. So we look to be healthy going into Week 3's game away against the Denver Broncos. But that is it for me. Thank you guys for watching, and go Bucs.